Thank God it's Friday. Welcome. We are here to do Friday business on Business Morning. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Let's start off with what's going on in the commodities space. U.S. grain and soybean futures closed lower with a profit taking dragging wheat down from two-month high. Broad-based selling added pressure on prices as traders reduced their risk amid growing warnings of a global economic slowdown. Most active Chicago Board of Trade wheat futures settled down 27.25 cents at $8.45 a bushel. The market earlier reached its highest level since July the 11th at $8.84. Wheat also closed lower after reaching a two-month high. In other markets, CBOT corn, CVI ended 4.75 cents lower at $6.77 a bushel, while soybeans slid 3.5 cents to settle at $14.51 for half a bushel. Accelerating U.S. harvests hung over the corn and soybean markets with warm and dry weather benefiting field work and the end of crop development. Still staying with commodities, raw sugar futures on ice steadied as traders weighed bearish sentiment in the bigger financial market and improved output prospects in top producer Brazil against signs of tight near-term supplies. October raw sugar SBC settled down 0.09 cents at $18.18, and stock markets were sluggish and the dollar shuffled higher as the likelihood of a further jump in global borrowing costs kept the bears on the prowl. Dealers say rains should continue to fall across Brazil's main sugar-growing region over the next 10 days, improving output prospects but disrupting harvest operations. They added, however, that October sugar futures continue to trade at a premium to March, indicating tight nearby supplies, which is underpinning the markets. And now to oil. Prices dipped in early trade today, extending the week's losses as concern over tight supply was outweighed by escalating fear of sharp interest rate hikes, slamming global growth and hitting fuel demand. Brent crude futures fell by 22 cents to $90.62 a barrel, and that's to a one-week low in the previous session. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures lost 25 cents to $84.85 a barrel after tumbling 3.8% in the previous session. Both benchmarks are headed for a third consecutive weekly loss, hurt partly by a strong U.S. dollar, which makes oil more expensive for buyers using other currencies. The dollar index ticked down on Friday, but held near last week's high, above $110. The market was also rattled this week by the International Energy Agency's outlook for almost zero growth in oil demand in the fourth quarter, and that's because of a weaker demand outlook for China. We come to Nigeria, where the country's inflation rate climbed higher to 20.52% in August. That's its seventh consecutive rise and the highest in 17 years, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. The latest official figure, which is largely driven by high fuel, gas, and transport costs, is 3.52 percentage points higher than the 17.01% rate recorded the same period last year, but 0.55 percentage points lower than the rate recorded in July. At the same time, the food inflation index, which is a major driver of the headline figure, went up by 2.82% to 23.12% year-on-year comparison, but fell by 0.07% to 1.98% last month. The NBS attributes the drop in August food inflation index to a reduction in the prices of commodities such as gari, local rice, tubers, and vegetables. Meanwhile, the country's core inflation rate dropped to 1.59%. Urban inflation fell to 1.79%, while rural inflation decreased to 1.75% on a monthly comparison. And the economic advisory firm Financial Derivatives Company has reacted to that latest number, the inflation report released by the NBS. In an interview with Channels Television, the chief executive officer, Mr. Bismarck Rouhani, highlighted some of the factors driving the continued inflationary pressure and the impact on the country's economy.
question that must be asked is this, that why is it at a time after 7 straight months of a food index decline globally, why is food inflation increasing in Nigeria whilst in other parts of the world it's actually declining? It's simply this, because of the weakness of the Naira. What has fed in here is that the Naira has weakened during this period, and even though the drop in the global food prices is at a level which is less than the drop in the value of the currency. So net increases, the food prices increased, and it's having an impact on the general food index. Having said that, one other thing that is noticeable is that the price of diesel has come down from a peak of 850 to about 715 naira a liter. That has actually reflected in some of the non-food basket items decelerating. In other words, the prices are increasing but at a slower pace than it was noticed in July.
That's right. So other than inflation, which is obviously a burning issue, and we'll follow up on that conversation subsequently here on Business Morning, another burning issue we started discussing yesterday is oil theft, which is adding pressure to that inflation number that you saw there. It's a major problem in Nigeria at this time, with the country losing billions and not even able to produce as much as 1 million barrels a day, which used to be a given before now. Yesterday, we talked to a stakeholder in the industry. Today, we want to talk to an economist who I believe will give us some data in case we have been in doubt on the issue of crude oil theft in the country, in Nigeria. We have in the studio Mr. Tosin Ige. He's a senior economist, impacts research with ProShare Nigeria Limited. Good morning. Thank you so much, Mr. Ige, for your time this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so yesterday we spoke to someone who practices. Today I want to talk to you from the angle of data and your findings at ProShare about oil theft. How worried should Nigerians be about the issue of oil theft?
Oh, well, if we want to talk about how worried we should be when it comes to oil theft, I think one of our findings really is that across the globe, oil theft has become an issue that we can actually be synonymous to human trafficking, all those high-stake crime in Nigeria. So, of course, even our minister has talked about it being a national disaster. So really, we should be worried. Talking about the effect on all of our fiscal position and monetary. So we really should be worried, really. And that's why we have advanced this research into the book that will come up with the anatomy of crude oil, because we actually looked at all of those issues, the dimensions, and of course the scale, the structure of the industry that created the problem in the first place. So basically we're trying to, but then our primary objective, let me say, is actually to elevate the discussion of the issue of oil theft. And thank God you said you started it yesterday. So really, we want to elevate that discussion, because we believe that by doing that, everyone tend to see the issue. In fact, those in the oil-producing community also get to see this issue we're talking about, and of course, the effect on the nation, because for us, it is the issue is like a family that some members of the family are taking the resources that is meant to be for the entire family. You know, it's at the detriment of your family, being a member of that family. So that's
so are you, because our guest yesterday, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, did allude to the fact that one of the driving factors of this expanding industry in the oil theft is actually poverty in the host community. And you just mentioned the host community now, that perhaps it is that poverty that is at the root of this growing menace.
Definitely, we can't dissociate that poverty from this issue. And in fact, in one of our infographics there, we do something we call a power matrix. And now, in that instance, we're looking at it, we put economic and power of the nation against those of the oil thieves. And now we're looking at it that if our own economy and power strength is actually lower, in that instance, if we're not having, as we talked about, there's poverty in the land, there is insecurity, and then we're saying that in those instances, and if we have, on the other hand, the strength of those oil thieves are stronger, definitely we'll see more of these oil thefts, which
but
is
whatever
the situation we're
strength
seeing
the
now.
oil thieves have belongs to the economy.
No, they have their own. When we talk about their strength, we talk about their technology. Really, and that's what we are seeing there in the report, with details the way some of this stealing is done. On the onshore we have those hot tapping, and on the offshore we have the cold tapping. Now these things require large technology infrastructure that no common man can have. But of course, because of the gain we are seeing in oil prices, the high oil prices now is an incentive for people to also steal these things. So because of that, if they get any barrel they get now, they can easily trade it for money. And of course, that gives them enough fund to buy those higher technology for further vandalism and theft. So that's how the power play has become in the industry. And so it's a balance of power. Whoever is not really strengthening his own power will tend to be losing.
So they are strengthening theirs, and they're getting more power with the surging oil prices. Now, whenever we talk about oil prices, there's also the issue of how come they are taking it across the border when we have so much security, so much Navy. And I remember, I think, an interview that Channels TV had with the Chief of Naval Staff, and he said the numbers that are being brandished everywhere are not real. They cannot be real, because it will require large vessels, maybe in tens or hundreds, flying through, and there's no way that can happen, without it being stopped. What have you found in your research?
Thank you for that question. We actually reviewed those every sector, the stakeholders' perspective on all of this issue, and it's one of those issues that we raise in this report. Now, here's the thing. We found out that there are external dynamics to this thing, and there are, of course, internal dynamics. What I mean that, in fact, we drew an infographics that details how some of the stealings are done onshore and some of them offshore. Now, but then we find out that it's not everything that goes outside Nigeria. Really, there are some of them that get to be refined in the economy. When we talk about that, you remember now that we're talking about illegal refiners in the same oil-producing region. Now, some of these oil thieves are the one feeding them. So when we say we're losing this volume, some of them are actually being refined in the economy, and of course, it's circulating. That's why you can talk about, I think recently, the Customs Service said they arrested some 2 tankers with this dirty fuel. Now, those are the people that are getting some of those that are being stolen. But on the other hand, too, there are some of them that is actually being taken out of Nigeria. In fact, the Norwegian ship alluded to that fact, but they said it does not contain oil anyway. But of course, it points to the fact that there are some of those ships that come into our border that comes to load some of these things. So we found out that really, when you are looking at depending on the perspective you are looking at, you will actually be correct. Whether you are looking at it from the onshore or the offshore, you will really be correct, but it all depends on the volume. Not to say that we actually know that the Nigerian Navy are doing things in that instance. They are doing so much in that instance. In fact, they have a naval strategy that are helping them in that instance, but really there are still some lapses because some of this, some fuel uses fake documents, fake bill of lading. And of course, some of those things it's possible they are able to push through the Nigerian security architecture. So there are, on both sides, it's possible. And we've actually found out, we detail some of those things.
So did you find out possible solution?
Of course, it's one of our objectives really to identify the lapses that create the problem in the first place so that, of course, we can look at the way to block it. But let me say that it's not really, our problem as an industry, oil and gas, is not really only the oil theft. I think, but of course, we narrowed it because our interest given that oil theft is the most pronounced, we're now already down to the, but we looked at other aspects of it. One of it is aging infrastructure. Our infrastructures are old, and some of those things are not being serviced as they are. So you could have their capacities, objective capacity, very, very low. But so some of those solutions we prefer, we have those quick fixes, what we call quick and dirty fixes, and of course we have those long-term solutions. The quick and dirty fixes, we're looking at ways we can actually strengthen the same security architecture to deal with this issue, and of course we are looking at, again, the technology. But one thing also, as I said, in the technology, we must develop superior technology to those folks. So another one, we're also looking at, really, let's punish those whom we catch as thieves. Let it be made public. Let's see that we are really punishing those guys. Because, see, punishment normally should create deterrence. But if people are not seeing the punishment that should create that deterrence, then come on, some of them will continue to go into it. So those are some of the quick fixes we're looking at, of course, more. But on the long term, we're looking at maritime strategy. We are looking at making Nigeria the refining hub in Africa. So some of those long-term
All right,
strategies.
Mr. Ige, Tosin Ige, Senior Economist and Impact Research with Proscia Nigeria Limited. Thank you so much for sharing your findings with us. We do hope we can go beyond the books, into action. Thank you so much for your
Thank you for
morning. Yeah. Well, Mr. Ige did mention the issue of infrastructure. Talking about funding infrastructure, it's a major, another setback that manufacturing production faces in the country. And that's why we're exploring possible ways that that can be fixed. We have STAIRS. They also looked at how Sukuk can help with funding infrastructure. So they sent in the deputy editor at STAIRS, Adeshola Afolabi, joining us virtually this time. Hi, Adeshola. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Hi, Amy. Nice to be here. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you, Adeshola. So going through Sukuk bonds, this obviously is money from the public. Explain to us.
Yes, like you rightly alluded to, this is money from the public. And just as Mr. Tosin was saying, Nigeria is in a fiscal crisis. Oil gives us about 80% of our revenue, and at the moment, we are losing much of that income to oil theft at the moment. So the government is trying all they can. Even before the oil theft, we had issues with revenue. Revenue has been dwindling for a while. So in trying to fix this this looming fiscal crisis, in terms of school bonds, to get funds from people that want to keep to the ethos of their religion, that's the Islamic Nigerians, which actually represent over 50% of Nigerians. That way, you bring them into the financial investment bracket, and then you can raise money to be able to develop critical infrastructure, particularly road, because most of the Sukuk bond issues are tied to a particular road project. So that's just for the infrastructure, the road infrastructure part of things.
All right, so this means that, is it anybody can participate in this? And what do they stand to gain?
Yeah, sure. So Sukuk bonds are open to the public, everyone. It's just different in that it particularly brings in the Muslims among Nigerians, because conventional bonds don't allow people that practice the Islamic religion to invest in them. So even if the government raises other kinds of bonds, for example, FGM bonds, saving bonds that attract interest rates, they will not get as much participation from the Muslim folk as opposed to Sukuks. So when you're raising Sukuk, what you're doing is bringing more people into the investment bracket. We all know that financial inclusion is another problem, that the government, the fiscal authorities are also trying to solve, in that we have very few people that engage in formal financial services in the country. So with Sukuk bonds, you're opening more investment opportunities for these people. You're also opening like more business opportunities as well, because we have financial service institutions like banks that they're set up to also cater to this category of people. You have likes of J's, for example, where they deal in non-interest financial products. So when you have Sukuk, they're able to invest in that and to be able to make their businesses viable. So that's just one way of bringing the Muslims into the fold. But everybody's open to investing, either regardless of the religion that you practice.
All right, Adesola Afolabi, this is an ongoing conversation. We promise to get more elaborates on it in the nearest future. Deputy Editor at STARS, thank you for the information. And I'm sure members of the public have their ears standing now to say, oh, is this an investment opportunity I can, just jump on? But we will elaborate more on this. And obviously, it's something people can research and stay on. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Let's take a breather now. When we come back, have you ever thought of the country Indonesia and what Nigeria is doing with them, or what they are doing with Nigeria? We'll find out after the break here on Business Morning in Channels Television. Welcome back. The Nigerian-Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry is set to boost investment and trade activities between the two countries. In 2021, Nigeria recorded positive $2.6 billion trade balance with Indonesia. Nigeria imports from Indonesia as at 2021 include soaps, lubricants, beverages, ships, and other floating structures, modified starches, glues, and all of that. While Nigeria exports mineral fuels, oils, and distillation products, aluminium, and cocoa worth $1.79 billion to Indonesia last year. What direction should the boost in trade take? Hopefully, it will be more exports than imports. But we have joining us in the studio now Mr. Ishmael Balogun. He is the president of Nigerian-Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Good to have you in the studio, Mr. Balogun. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you today?
Great, great. It's good to have you here. So I'm happy you're a Nigerian. So obviously you agree with me that we should have more exports into Indonesia than Nigeria.
I do agree to that, yeah.
But that would also mean that we need to put a house in order so that we have what to export, quality products to export to Indonesia.
Yeah. That's very correct. Yeah.
So as the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, what are you doing towards this? Okay,
great. So we're very proactive as a Chamber of Commerce and Industry. In the last 4 years since I became president of the Chamber, we've held several trade shows and forums between Nigeria and Indonesia. In 2018, we're in Jakarta for the Indonesian African Forum, and that was to promote a lot of discussion between Indonesia and the African continent. 53 countries was represented, including Nigeria. And post that meeting, we've been able to see some very positive results. In 2019, we're in Bali for the Indonesian African Infrastructure Dialogue. Again, proceeding from what happened in 2018, we were able to go deeper. Again, about 53 African countries were present. And I can tell you that the resultant effect of those communication, delegation, conversations brought forth a lot of positive things for our country. To be very precise, PT Wika, who is a state-owned enterprise in Indonesia, has partnered with one of the Nigerian companies, Quaint Energy and Infrastructure, and they're doing projects in the power sector. I can also tell you very authoritatively that PT Timah, who is a state-owned company in Indonesia as well, mining, has partnered with a Nigerian firm, Top White Enterprises, and they are mining tin out of Jos as we speak. So we're not going to relent in our efforts. We're going to be very deliberate, and we want to see more trade balances between Nigeria and Indonesia. Actually, our target for the year 2023 ending is to step up the trade balance from $2.6 billion to $4 billion as of December 2023.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the word deliberate. I think you mentioned that because I think that's very important. Because when we see what Nigeria exports, it's mostly fuels, oil. So I'm wondering, who do you work with here in Nigeria? What are the things that Nigeria has that we can add value to and export to this Indonesia if we're seeking to boost this trade relations?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. When I said deliberate, I really meant deliberate. Interestingly enough, the chamber, my chamber has signed partnership with the Nigerian Export Promotion Council and also the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. These reasons are very deliberate. Now, with the Export Council, led by Dr. Ezra Yukasak, we're promoting non-oil exports, right? So if you look at the trade balance, like you said, we're selling a lot of crude to Indonesia, right? And we're saying to ourselves, we are more than crude, right? So we're agriculture, we're mining, we're commodities, we're so many other things. So we're very proactive in telling our people in Nigeria, businesses that are part of the chamber and those that are not, that agriculture is actually one of the biggest and easiest ways to actually attract a lot of foreign direct investment. And I'll tell you what I mean. For example, aquaculture. In 2019, we're in Indonesia and we visited a lot of fish farms. These are not just regular farms doing 10,000 pieces of fishes. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar investment where we're talking about commercial fishing, right? We have waterways, we have the marine life. How come we're not doing enough to actually harvest those marine resources and export them? So they're very good in terms of earning forex potentials. You understand what I'm saying? Another one is mining. We're blessed with a lot of natural resources. I can tell you for free that one of our members is actually involved in mining gold in Nigeria, and they're doing very well. So gold is there. Other mineral resources are there. I just told you about PT Tima and Topwide doing mining of tin in Jos. So in Osun State, in Nasarawa, the opportunities are endless. So part of the ministry is coming with us on this, our proposed journey, business trip to Jakarta, is the Ministry of Mines and Steel. We need them to come on board and showcase to the global village that these are the opportunities in mining. Why don't you come in and invest, right? So agriculture, mining, aquaculture.
What about adding value? Because it seems a lot of times we just export the crude, the raw of it, and then other countries add value and sell it back to us at an expensive price. So what are you doing? Is there anything you're doing about the value chain?
I'll tell you an interesting story. 1965, the Indonesians were actually in Nigeria, right? They picked up the palm kernel seeds from here and they went back, modified, and as we speak today, they're the #1 exporter of palm oil.
And we are importing palm oil.
And we are importing from them. How ironic, right? But it's never too late. That was 1965. This is 2022. So part of the delegation we're taking with us is the Akwa Ibom State Investment Group, right? They are already working with Indonesia as we speak now. We want to help them bring in the human element and also the technical element to come in, look at the Akwa Ibom State terrain and see how they can work together. Also, Edo State is a state that is actually doing very well in terms of oil plantation and all. We have cocoa, we have all those things you said. So instead of exporting, we need our investors locally to start looking inwards. If we need to go and procure what we call additional lines to convert cocoa to chocolate, then let's do that. If we need to convert corn to cornflakes, let's do that. But I am against just literally exporting raw commodities and selling them for cheap, knowing fully well that the end result is in the value-added services.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm on the same page with you.
And then there's the issue of the quality of what we export.
Yes.
You know, that has also been the bane of, boosting exports in Nigeria.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, what you said now is what NEPC is working on at the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. They are working with a lot of local entrepreneurs to meet industrial standards. So before you export any product, you have to be registered with them, right? And not just that, there are standards that you'd have been given. These are the specifications that must be met. Now, once those conditions are met, you're now certified for shipping. So NEPC has been doing a fantastic job with that, and we are working with them as well to showcase more of that. Yes.
All right. Well, we wish you the best in your plan, because your success means more exports for the country,
yes.
and more income and revenue
for the country as
and
well.
More effects.
That is correct. Yeah.
So the value of Naira will at least
continue to
at least add a little bit up, you know. Yeah. All right, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mr. Ishmael Balogun, the president of Nigerian Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So do have a great day.
All right.
All right, so while Mr. Balogun leaves, Will takes over the floor with the bull or the bear, the bull or the bear, the bull or the bear.
You know it's the bear, but I want to say
what
that.
What did you do this week?
No, I didn't do anything.
I know that I was supposed to be reporting the market this week, so you decided that I was going to be reporting the red market,
I did ask you to pray really hard for the market.
I should have done a little bit of fasting.
Yes, maybe added some, spiritual essence to it, because the market is quite, sensitive. But equities market, as I mentioned yesterday, is literally a red week for the NGX. But we'll still keep our fingers crossed, because we have one final trading day, which is today, to tell what the market is going to give for us. The all-share index dipped 0.07% yesterday, sustaining bearish sentiment that we are seeing as profit taking in Access Holdings yesterday, down 2.2%, and Dangote Sugar was also part of it, drove the market down, further, as we saw it, 26.721 trillion naira. That's where we're still at the market cap. And definitely the month-to-date and the year-to-date returns are moderated. Month-to-date is now 0.6% in the negative territory, and year-to-date is now at 16%. Total volume of trade yesterday, we saw it down about 15.1% to 167.61 million units, value 1.26 billion, and deals over 3,400 deals were transacted yesterday. Cordville Solutions was the most traded stock by volume at 38.8 million units. We're seeing Cordville being, the toast of investors at the moment, two times in a row now. Access Core was the most traded stock by value. Now, sectoral performance, we see all key indexes were majorly in the red, almost in the red, but industrial goods was unchanged yesterday, and the banking index still continues to drop, despite being one of the most liquid stocks that we have. Now, measuring by market breadth, we're seeing that market sentiment is definitely very negative. We saw 17 stocks losing yesterday against 8 gainers. Now, we move over to the fixed income market. At the fixed income market, we saw Treasury bills, the Treasury bills market having a very quiet, muted trading session yesterday, as average yields, dropped, was stagnated mostly at 7.76%. However, when we flip over to the bond market, we saw that the yield closed bullish. Average yields shed 2 basis points. That's good news for not the borrowers, but those that borrowed the money, to settle at 12.74%. Now, overall yields at the fixed income market closed bullish, 10.25% versus 10.26% we saw on Wednesday. Now, we're going to talk to Chuka Nwachukwu, Group Head Fixed Income at UBA, to give us more about how the market is and the direction that the market will be taking on from now. Good morning, Chuka. How are you doing?
Good morning, Will. Hi, how are you?
Chuka, we're going to start off with what happened Wednesday. There was a Treasury bills primary market auction, which, with a drop in yields at the long end of the curve. Tell us about that auction, and was this the expected outcome?
Okay, thank you. Like you rightly mentioned, we had the NTB auction on Wednesday. We saw about 159 billion on offer, and that was exactly the amount that was sold. We saw a drop on the in the yield, especially on the higher end, the longer end. We saw a 25 basis point drop from the previous closing rate of 10% to 9.75%. And so this has actually necessitated, a bit of a panic in the market. But by and large, we don't think that this depreciation or this drop in yield it is something to worry about.
Numbers came in yesterday hotter than expected. How did the market react to this?
The market has reacted slightly, but again, it's not something that is not the trend, and so the market hasn't reacted so negatively. Basically, what happened was that we noticed that a lot of people went for that auction, aggressively, because they are trying to run away from the CRR debit, and so looking into the trend, and then looking into next week, we see that the next auction will be on the 29th of this month, and then we see that the yield will go back up, around 10%, 10.1, 10.2 or thereabout. And so this, for me, really isn't anything to worry about.
So what's your outlook? You're mentioning the auctions to come. What's the direction for yields in the bond market space?
Okay, so we have a bond auction next week, precisely on the 19th, which is on Monday. So we have well over 225 billion on offer. We have across three maturities of 2025, 2032, and then 2037. Incidentally, the 2037 replaced the 2042, which was on auction the last time. So what we've seen is that the last auction, we saw about 25 to 150 basis point movement in yield. So this current auction is looking interesting because we see that inflation figure is out, and then basically MPC will definitely react on that inflation figure. But by and large, it's an upward movement in yield, and then we see that playing out at the next auction.
Good news for investors. Thank you so much, Chuka Nwachukwu, Group Head, Fixed Income at UBA, for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thank you.
So, Ini, that's what we have for the markets. NTB auction, downward trend for the long end of the curve there, 9.75%, but there was an uptick for the other yields. But he did mention that we'll see, an increase in yields because of the government is still going to borrow more.
Yeah, and then we have MPC also coming up, I think, on the 27th.
26th and 27th.
Yeah, 26th and 27th.
Yes.
So we'll also see that as a factor moving the market. Thank you so much for the market analysis. So let's take a break now. When we come back from that break, of course, we do have crypto on the other side, but first we'll do London. But that's after the break. Stay with us. This is Business Morning on Channels Television. We head to London now, where Juliana is standing by. Hi, Juliana. Good morning. One fall to the other. Retail sales fell more than expected. But I guess we shouldn't be surprised. It's the year of the squeeze anyways.
It is the year of the squeeze. Good morning, Inni. The Office for National Statistics have revealed retail sales for the month of August. And as you said, it's fallen much more sharply than economists had expected. So year on year, it's fallen 5.4%, month on month, about 1.2%. And really, even though we did have GDP data on Monday suggesting that the economy rose slightly in the month of July, and we got inflation data on Wednesday showing that it had dipped to 9.9%, but it does feel like we are in a recession, and it's pretty difficult for people to spend lavishly in the shops at the moment when all you're bombarded with is the fact that we are going through a cost of living squeeze, and people are really feeling it. They're feeling it when their wages at the end of the month are not going as far as expected. So people are holding back on spending on new items, and this is really being reflected in the data that was revealed by the ONS today.
Mentioned inflation there. We had ours yesterday, 20.5. While you guys tapered to 9.9, we just went up 20.5. It's not funny here in Nigeria. But Heathrow is talking about canceling some flights when the trains are making available more trains, for people. Won't this disturb the people who want to come for the Queen's ceremony?
It won't affect the dignitaries that are coming. Of course, the Queen's funeral is taking place on Monday, which is a bank holiday, Monday the 19th of September. If you are one of the fortunate 2,000 people to have been invited to watch the ceremony in Westminster Abbey, it begins at 11 a.m. sharp, and you would have been seated by 9 a.m. I think even Joe Biden, the President of the United States, will have to be seated by that time. We already have dignitaries that have flown in. I believe Jacinda Ardern, the New Zealand Prime Minister, is in already. So many of them are already in the air. There is going to be a state event on Sunday in Buckingham Palace with these dignitaries, hosted by King Charles, and I believe Liz Truss will be meeting with some of them tomorrow. But yes, unfortunately, if you are a mere mortal, somebody like us, Inni, you will be affected on Monday. If you're planning to fly into Britain, there are particular times. There is going to be a 2-minute silence, I believe, at about 12 o'clock. So with the hour before and the hour after, there will be no flights in the skies across West London to ensure that there is absolute silence. I believe as well, during the Queen's procession from Westminster Abbey to Windsor Castle, where she will be finally buried and laid to rest alongside her parents and her husband, there will also be no flights. Obviously, do check with your airline to ensure that you will not be delayed. 15% of flights are expected to be affected, but you'll also be affected on the Sunday prior and on the Tuesday after. So I do ask people to check, particularly if you're flying with British Airways. That is the national flag carrier. They are going through extraordinary measures to make sure that that day goes off without a hitch. And if you are living in the UK or coming into this country on that day, whether you're a royalist or a Republican, you will be impacted to make sure it goes off without a hitch.
Julian, I can sense you have a lot and loads of work waiting for you on Monday. You're going to be very, very busy. Yes. All right, Juliana, do take care and prepare well for Monday. All right. So now let's go to the crypto space. I'm sure by now everyone knows that the Queen Elizabeth II, will be buried on Monday. So that means that we're going to have our eyes there. But now let's have our eyes on the crypto space and see how the market is doing. Not looking so good. It's back to extreme fair at 20. I thought the Ethereum merge was going to help this market, but it doesn't look like it has changed a whole lot of things. So there, investors are still very, very much afraid. And so we're back to extreme fair at 20 with the market cap down lower than it was yesterday. In 24 hours, it's down more than 3% at 962.87, getting further away from that $1 trillion that we gives us a little bit of comfort. 24-hour volume is also down more than 10%, almost 10.5% actually, at 76.19 billion. BTC dominance is also down there. BTC dominance is more 0.45% at 39.35. The price of Bitcoin there back to 19,000, isn't it? 19,791.66, down 1.65% in 24 hours. And then the volume also down 32.64%. If we see the price of Ethereum, we don't expect it to be looking good, even though we are still in the mood of celebrating the successful Ethereum merge, but it's down more than 8% at 1,474.38. We have Olumide Adesina now joining us to tell us what he thinks about this and a whole lot more. Hi, Olumide. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you. The Ethereum merge, I was expecting it to be a little bit of boost, at least, to the market. Why? What's going on with it?
Yeah, the strong dollar and the fact that U.S. inflation rate came out higher than expected. And, that further means that the U.S. Fed will be very aggressive on taming inflation. Recall that, when inflation is being tamed, it has to do with a lot of tightening monetary liquidity, and that will definitely affect financial assets, and that's why we saw sell-offs in the stock market and the crypto market. So that really brought Bitcoin below the $20,000 mark. The US Fed is meeting next week, so rather than the investors following the good news on the merge, where they're seeing Bitcoin Ethereum leaving the miners structure to the validators network, it's still the same game. But the exciting thing about the merge is that electric consumption it's going to be lower. So environmentalists would not really have what to say, like what they say about Bitcoin. And also, it makes the system kind of more efficient. But one of the shortcomings about the merge is that it makes us, most of the uh, uh, have had issues in the past. So that's the problem right now.
All right, so Olumide, well, I wonder why this relationship has to be inverse. I really wish it was stronger dollar, better markets for all of us. That would have been so good, Olumide. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week and get more reactions as we follow the markets. All right, just before we go there, you get top alts by market cap. All of them are down. All of them are down. BNB, Cardano, eCash. I don't know what's going on with eCash. It's down more than 5%. And they're telling me to round up. Top gainers, Chili's, Lunar Classic, QNT Link, and then they look green, at least for Chili's. And top losers, just before we go there, Celsius, Raven, ETC, Geno. A lot of red there, especially for Raven coin there and for Celsius. Well, let's hope that the weekend will change the tide of the market. Hopefully, I don't know. But that's where we draw the curtain for the program today. It's been 5 days of straight journey, strong and relevant business conversations. We should have it again next week. I hope you enjoyed it, so make it a date again next week. I'm Ini John McCoy. Enjoy the rest of your business day.